Hey, my name is Michael, and today we're going to show you some different problems, and I'm going to show you how to solve them. So, for this problem, we're going to be solving for the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Our equation is negative 3x squared plus 2x minus 3 equals 0. We have to identify our a, b, and c. Once you identify that negative 3 is our a, positive 2 is our b, and negative 3 is our c, we're going to plug that into the formula. That's going to be negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 minus 4 times negative 3 times negative 3 all over 2 times negative 3. And that is going to give us negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 minus 36 all over negative 6, or negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 32 all over negative 6. And that is going to give us negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 16 square root of 2 all over negative 6. That is going to give us negative 2 plus or minus 4i square root 2 all over negative 6. We get the I because it's an imaginary number because we pulled out the negative. Now we simplify that. That is going to give us 1 plus or minus 2i square root 2 all over 3. So that is why our answer to number 1 is B. For our second problem, we're going to be comparing A and our B figures. The formula is going to be pi times r squared times h. So for figure A, we're going to plug it into our formula, and it is going to be pi times 4 squared times 5, and that is going to give us 251.3274123. Then we plug that into our b squared, or our b figure, and that is going to be pi times 12 squared times 20. And that is going to give us 9,047.786842. Then we're going to divide the 9,047.786842 by the 251.3274123, and our answer is going to be 36, which is why our answer to number 2 is C. For our third problem, we are going to be finding the solution set using the quadratic formula, which, let's go ahead and review our formula and for refresh. That is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Our equation is negative 2x squared minus 3x plus 4 equals x plus 3. You're going to subtract x plus 3 from both sides, and that is going to give you 2x squared minus 4x plus 1 equals 0. Then we identify our a, b, and c, and that is going to be our 2 is the a, our negative 4 is our b, and the 1 is our c. We're going to plug that into our formula, and there's going to be negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 minus 4 times 2 times 1 all over 2 times 2. That is going to give us 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 minus 8 over 4. That is going to equal 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 2 over 4. Then we're going to simplify that, and that is going to be x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 over 2. Now we need to solve, and once we solve this, it's going to be 2 plus the square root of 2 divided by 2, and that is going to give us 2 plus the square root of 2, and that's going to equal 3.4142135. Then that we have to divide that by 2. That is going to be 1.707. Now 2 minus the square root of 2 divided by 2 is going to give us 2 square root of 2, and that is going to equal 0.585786. Now we have to divide that by 2, and that is going to equal 0.292893. Which is why our answer is D. For this equation or problem, we're going to be finding the distinct real roots that cannot be imaginary. Our equation is 4x squared minus 9 equals 0. Our first step is to add 9 to both sides, which is going to be 4x squared equals 9. Now we have to divide both sides by 4. And that is going to give us x squared equals 9 over 4. And now we have to take the square root of both sides, and that is going to give us x equals plus or minus 3 over 2, or plus 3 over 2 and negative 3 over 2. For this equation, it is 1x squared minus 5x minus 3 equals 0. We identify our a, b, and c, and we're going to use the quadratic formula. Plug that in, and we're going to have negative 5 plus or minus the square root of negative 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 3, and all over 2 times 1. That is going to give us 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 plus 12 all over 2. And that is going to give us 5 plus or minus the square root of 37 over 2. And that is going to give us x equals 5 plus the square root of 37 over 2. Or 5 plus the square root of 37 over 2. And x equals 5 minus the square root of 37 over 2. For this equation, we have 2x squared plus 3x equals 4. We have to minus 4, and that is going to give us 2x squared plus 3x minus 4 equals 0. Then we use the quadratic formula, and we identify our a, b, and c. That is going to give us negative 3x plus or negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 4 all over 2 times 2, and that is going to give us negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 plus 32 all over 4, which equals to negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 41 all over 4, which is going to give us x equals negative 3 minus the square root of 41 all over 4, and x equals negative 3 plus the square root of 41 all over 4. Now let's look at one that does not work. 5x squared equals negative 6. We have to divide both sides by 5. That is going to give us x squared equals negative 6 over 5. Now, if you could take the square root, there would be an imaginary number because of the negative value. This does not work. That is why the bottom 3 are correct and the top 3 are incorrect. So for this problem, we have a question, which is about how far does a 23-foot ladder have to be placed from the building? Well, as you can see, the ladder and the building make a triangle where the hypotenuse is 23 feet and the height is 12 feet. We are going to solve to find the B for, we're going to solve for the B side by using a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So we're going to plug our numbers into our formula, and our hypotenuse is 23, and our height is 12. So we're going to plug that in to a squared plus b squared equals c squared. But first we have to identify our height is our a, so 12 is our a, and 23 is our c. So we have to find our b. So we plug those in. We're going to have 12 squared plus b squared equals 23 squared. So we're going to go ahead and use our 12 squared, which is 144, plus b squared equals 23 squared, which is going to be 529. So now we have to subtract 144 from both sides. That is going to give us b squared equals 385. Now I have to take the square root, which is going to be square root of 385, which is equal to 19.6214. And that is why D is our answer. So now for this problem, we are seeing if the sides are true. So if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, well, let's see if this problem here is correct. So if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, that's going to be the square root of 2 squared and the square root of 2 squared. So add those together, and that's going to be 4, because the square root of 2 is 2, or the square root of 2 times 2 is 2. So that square root of 2 times 2 is 2. Times that by 2 and you get 4. Then so therefore a squared plus b squared equals 4. So if that equals c squared, that's 4 times 4 is 16. Therefore this one is incorrect due to a squared plus b squared equals 4 when c squared equals 16. Therefore it does not work, so it's not true. For our second problem, we got it's the same thing as our last problem. We're seeing if the sides are true. So like the last one, we're using a squared plus b squared equals c squared, seeing if they're true. So the square root of 5 squared is equal to 5, and the a side and the b side are both the same. So if a squared, if the square root of 5 squared is equal to 5, 5 plus 5 is 10. Therefore, a squared plus b squared equals 10. So now let's see if it equals c squared. Well, the square root of 10 squared, square root of 10 squared is equal to 10. Therefore, this equation is true.
Cool.
For this problem, we have the same thing as our last two. We're going to make sure and find out if the sides are true. So our a squared in this one and our b squared are both the same, again, like our last one. And our a side and our b side are 7 square root of 2. So 7 times the square root of 2. So 7 square root of 2 equals 98. Or 7 square root of 2 times 2 is 98. And so 98 plus 98 is 196. So that's what that equals. And then 14 times 14 is also 196. Therefore, this equation is true. And so, what we're going to do for this one is we're going to take our a and b, and we're going to square them, and that's going to give us 112.5 for both of those sides, which is going to equal 15 squared. And 15 squared is 225. Therefore, this problem is true. So for this problem, it's the exact same thing as our last one, but different sides. So we're going to square our a and b sides, and that is going to give us 16 plus 16 equals this 4 square root 2 squared, and that's going to give us 32. And then 4 square root 2 times 2, which is squared, is also 32. Therefore, this equation is true. So for this one, it's the same thing as our last ones. We're squaring our a and b sides, and that is going to give us 0.625 plus 0.625, and that is going to give us 1.25. Does that equal 5? No. Therefore, it's not true. So as you can see, all are true except for the first and last ones. Thanks for joining us today, and I'll see you in the next one.